lion in post-meal speech, sir? I leave it to sir to now take on this talk, which I thought was the topic, on glossophobia. So over to you.
Namaste and a very good morning to future Palkiwalas, Saprus of the nation. Don't panic, don't worry, you are in the right lecture. Lion and the post-meal speech got a lot to do with glossophobia. Let me tell you a story of the lion and what happened to him when he got opportunity to give a public speech. Many centuries ago, Roman Empire was already over its peak. It was slightly going down. Colosseum, the place for public entertainment, was already constructed. Decadence had started. At that time, there lived a slave, a handsome one, intelligent one, favorite of the ladies. He wanted his freedom, and one day he ran away, escaped. But soon he was arrested and brought back. The king wanted to punish him, so set an example to other slaves. But the ladies, they wanted him to go free. Well, a bargain was struck. Slave was to fight a lion, and if he beat him, he would be set at liberty. But if lion ate him, then bad luck. On the appointed day, appointed time, Colosseum was full to its capacity. It had capacity of 80,000, 80,000 Romans watching. Slaves stood in the center of the Colosseum, and the cage was open. The lion walked out proudly. Slave was very intelligent, and he knew the language of many animals, including that of lion. When lion approached him, he said something to the lion. And then, I don't know what happened. Lion looked around Colosseum, put his head down, and slowly, he crawled back to his cage. Despite the best effort of the soldiers, he wouldn't come out. Well, king was bound by the law, by the order that he had passed, and he set him free. But he asked the slave, "What did you tell the lion? What happened to him? Why did he go back?" The slave said, "Nothing much, Your Highness. I just said, look around. People watching you. They have not come here to see you eating me. They have come here to actually hear you make a post-meal speech." The lion chose to be hungry for one more day rather than to make a post-meal speech. You, me, and most of us are like lion, afraid of making public speech. Glossophobia, fear of public speaking, is second most fear in the world. The first one being fear of death. If you are afraid of making a public speech, don't worry. You are not alone. And one can always get over it. I have got 8 points for you. Let's see the point number 1. Mr. Siketa. Mr. Nachiketa, I think you have put your audio on an off position. We couldn't hear you. Do it again.
I'll do that. First point, read, prepare, and be clear.
Many years ago, a judge came to Allahabad. I think it was about 13 or 14 years ago. And he also gave a public speech. His pronunciation was immaculate. His grammar absolutely correct. Eloquent, fluent. And after the function was over a cup of tea, lots of lawyers came to me. Sir, आपने सुना? क्या बढ़िया बोले? इसको कहते हैं speech? I said, yes, you're right. A very good speech. But what was the substance of his speech? अरे सर, आपकी तो अंग्रेजी इतनी अच्छी है, आप तो सब समझ गए होंगे, आप बताइए ना क्या कहा उन्होंने. And you know, those who were slightly free with me, they could take liberty with me. They said, Yati, you were also present. Didn't you hear him? Were you sleeping? Talking on a mobile? The result was not one of them, including me, could make out what was the substance of his talk. So is the case with many of the articles that you read in the magazine, in the newspaper. Difficult to make out what the author wants to say. I shifted to Noida in 2015, and many students come to Delhi for internship. Some of them also pay me a visit. Some time ago, 2 students from Sastra University, Tanjavur. Is there anybody from Sastra University, Tanjavur? Nachiketa, is anyone raising his hands?
No. As much as I know, nobody is there from that. I didn't see in the registration.
Doesn't matter. They were very bright students. They knew about my blog. They knew about my articles. They knew about my judgments. And I had most wonderful evening. If you ever happen to be in Delhi or Noida, just drop it. I'll love to meet all of you. Now, during the talks, they just mentioned about a recently decided constitutional case. And they asked me my opinion on it. I said, yeah, law has been upheld. They wanted some more reasons for it. And then I asked them reason, why are you asking me? They said, sir, we have to prepare a note on the case. And we have not been able to understand the reason for the judgment. I said, don't worry. I keep on going to Supreme Court. No lawyer does. Fortunately, it doesn't happen with majority of the cases. But there are cases it's difficult to understand. The reason why no one could tell me the substance of the talk, or you don't understand what author wants to say, or the reason of the judgment is simple. The subject or the issues involved, or the law on the point is not clear to them. Now, verbosity is a hallmark of such people. And they hide their ignorance behind the high-sounding words. And they just go on in circles. Have you read, there was a very, in our childhood, I read some of the very good novels. Have you read Adventures of Tom Sawyer? Adventures of Huckleberry Finn? Prince and the Pauper? A Connecticut Yankee in a King Author's Court? Just raise your hand so Mr. Nachiketa can see and tell me if you have.
Yeah, some of them have read. Yeah,
okay, that's great. That's great. That's good. I'm very happy to know that some of you have read it. Now, these novels were written by Mark Twain. He is reputed to be the first professional speaker. Once he was invited to speak for the occasion, he said that if there is no time limit, I can go on for whatever length I want. I can do the talk today. But if you limit my time to half an hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, then you have to give me weeks to prepare. So the first thing is, if you get a topic to speak, read on the subject. Be clear on the mind. If you are not clear in your mind, you will go in circles. And nobody will understand what you want to say. Preparation takes time. Invest in it, and it will pay you heavy dividends. Let's come to the second point. Mr. Nachiketa.
Write your speech, revise.
Best of the speakers write their own speech. Either they handwrite it, or they type it, or they dictate. But they do it themselves. They don't utilize ghostwriters. And the reason is simple. When you write a speech, it's your feeling, it's your emotions, it's your ideas. When the ghostwriter writes, maybe he takes ideas from me, but nonetheless, it is his feelings, it is his emotions. You will never be able to speak with emotions that are a speech which is written by others. Always write your speech. And once you have written it, revise and revise and revise. Revise it as many times as you can. With every revision you will find, your speech, your written text improves. Once it is already final, it's a very good idea to read it aloud. On the internet, there are many free text-to-speech software. Take their help. Once you hear your written speech, then it will smoothen the rough passages. And many a times, it tells you the rearrangement of your text. Once you hear it, you feel, oh, this is paragraph number 35. Oh, let's shift it to paragraph 11. Oh, paragraph number 4. Oh, it would be better if it goes on paragraph number 17. It gives a kind of your speech becomes systematic, logical. Apart from it, it has many other advantages. When I entered Allahabad High Court Bar, Justice V.N. Khare, who later became the Chief Justice of India, was also on the bar. One day he said, Yati, do you know how to prepare a fresh case? I said, nahi sir, bataiye. I am honored. And he says, whenever a fresh case comes to you, read the judgment, read the entire file, note down the points involved, then find it out every case in your favor and against you. Now, if you have time, go to the library or go to the library of any good lawyer, look into Harvard Law Review, look into Quarterly Law Review, see if there is any article in your favor or any article against you. Note that down. Now, if you have a decent case and if you argue well, the court is bound to give you notice. And maybe the case comes up after 3 years. You just have to see what has happened in the last 3 years. That's all. So is true about your speech. Once you have finalized a speech, you have a background. The next time you get opportunity to speak, just add. Or if you get an opportunity to speak on a light subject, just modify. Let's come to the third point. Mr. Nachiketa.
Keep your language simple. Third point.
Oh, I must say that there is a Murphy law. If a thing can go wrong, it will go wrong. Whatever I said, sorry, the third point was, again, say that again, Mr. Nachiketa.
Keep your language simple.
Okay. All right. This is the third point.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a Murphy law. If a thing can go wrong, it will go wrong. So that's what exactly happened. The second point was repeated again, and I got confused. And this exactly many times happens, but don't be rattled. Don't worry about it. I many times some things have gone wrong, and I've quoted Murphy law and got away with it. During emergency, my father was arrested under Defense of India rules. He was granted bail, but before he could come out, he was detained under Maintenance of Internal Security Act. We filed a habeas corpus petition. At that time, right to move to court for enforcement of Article 21 suspended. The state took up objection. Habeas corpus is not maintainable. We won it from Allahabad High Court. Apart from Allahabad High Court, 8 other high courts also decided against the state. These appeals were taken to Supreme Court, and ultimately, in ADM Jabalpur versus Shivkant Shukla, they were, for the misfortune of the nation, misfortune of the judiciary, they were allowed. Habeas corpus was not maintainable. I was present during arguments, and from our side, number of decisions of Justice Krishna Iyer were cited. They were in our favor, but it contained many words. No one knew their meaning. I distinctly remember Chief Justice Ray openly asked, "Can someone explain to us the meaning of these words in the court?" Not a single lawyer could explain. Then dictionaries were some, those words were not there. And the Chief Justice Ray said, "How can we rely on a ruling whose meaning is not clear?" Saying that why, he discarded all those decisions in our favor. There is no point using a language which no one understands. Sentences should be simple, should be short, and language simple. Has anyone heard about Lord Denning? Have you read any of his book or his judgment? Please raise your hands. Mr. Nachiketa, please tell me if anyone has raised his hand.
Yeah, they have.
Are they? Oh, great. He has written many books. Yeah. I am so happy that at least there are about 6 of you have raised their hands. I'm very, very happy to know that. If you read Lord Denning, you will understand what I mean by short sentences and simple language. He is a classic example of such English. This is how English is to be written. This is how any language is to be written. Now, let's come to the fourth point.
Yeah, I'll run it. Fourth point, never memorize, never read.
Have you ever wanted to be center of attraction and you couldn't be? Well, the boys always want to be center of attraction when the pretty girls are there. And maybe the girls also want to be center of attraction, They wear one of the finest dresses. In my life, many a time I wanted to be center of attraction, but I couldn't be. Let me tell you one incident from my life. In school, I was good in maths, good in science, but I was very ordinary in other subjects, rather poor. In a class of 40, I always used to be somewhere between, you know, 20, 25, you know. Sometimes when I do very well, I would be 21st, 22nd. Sometimes I would, if I do badly, I would be 28, 29th. I was very good in racket games. I played for my state. But my school excelled in field games, cricket, football, hockey, athletics. Racket games? No, no one bothered. The result was, in school, I was a student of no consequence. No one noticed me that I also existed. One fine day, a teacher asked me to give a speech about Mahatma Gandhi. And I was elated. I knew that I will be center of attraction. Today is a day to make my day. I have to make a good speech. If I make a good speech, I know I would be the favorite. I also felt very important. The topper of the class was not asked. The best boy of the class was not asked. The sportsman was not asked. But me, a boy of no consequence, was asked. I came back home. I told my mother, I told my fat sister, brother, and I was very excited. One of my uncles wrote a fantastic speech. And I memorized it. Word by word, I knew I will be center of attraction. When the appointed day came, I went to the stage. I don't know what happened to me. In the talk, there was one sentence. गांधी जी के 3 मूल मंत्र थे. बुरा मत देखो, बुरा मत सुनो, बुरा मत बोलो. I can see some of the ladies, girls there. Please excuse me if I use a word. I'm so sorry. But if it was not necessary, I wouldn't have said it. Instead of saying mool mantra, I said mal mutra. You can imagine what happened in the hall. Everybody started laughing. And I got so embarrassed that I ran away from the stage. I didn't go to school the next day. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't face any of my friends. I became a lawyer. Within a decade, I became a lawyer. And as I told you that my father was arrested, I did a lot of DIR bails, habeas corpus petitions. And I argued more than, 3,000 or 4,000 of cases. And yet, I could not muster courage to give a public speech. It was more than 2 decades that I gathered some confidence in my life to make my public speech. So never memorize your speech. At the crucial time, you will forget it, or you miss a crucial sentence, or you may mispronounce a word. And the result would be, you would be embarrassed. Same is true, never read your speech. Audience, they come to listen to you. They want to interact with you. They have not come there to see you reading a text. If that be the case, they would have sat at the home, probably enjoying themselves while seeing a TV, radio speech at their leisure time. Why should they take a trouble of coming to a public meeting if you have to read a speech? Never do that. The moment you start reading a written text speech, you are insulting your audience. Never insult your audience. So the 4th point is, don't memorize, don't read. Let's come to the 5th point, Mr. Mitra.
5th point, rehearse your talk.
During Second World War, Winston Churchill led England as a prime minister. He is reputed to be one of the greatest leaders in the history of England. And his speeches have consistently ranked best ever. One day, he was going to a meeting where he was supposed to speak. When he reached the building, his driver opened up the door. Prime Minister came out. Maybe because of the facial expression or the way he walked, I don't know what, but the driver thought that Prime Minister is not well. He said, "Sir, should I get a doctor for you?" Churchill looked at him and smiled. "Oh, don't worry. I'm preparing my impromptu remark." It is rightly said, if you ever want to be, if you want your speech to appear impromptu, rehearse like hell. Rehearse not one time, not two times, not three times, maybe 10 times. Rehearse it in front of mirror. Rehearse it in front of your family members. Rehearse it in front of your friends, but rehearse you must. And sometimes you should also rehearse in real time. That will give you indication how much time you will take. A good speech always finishes within plus minus time of your allotted time. Let's come to the next point, Mr. Mittal.
Sixth point, know your audience.
National Judicial Academy, NJA, is a wonderful place. But many judges don't like it. I enjoyed it. Till I was a junior judge, 2005, 2006, I must have gone there about 100 times, many times as a participant, many times as a speaker. I enjoyed it because in a courtroom you do the truck matters. Bhaiya, nali yahan se jaye ki nali wahan se jaye. Bhaiya, you know, you get bored doing all these matters. That's a time when you go to a conference, you meet your brother judges, you know what's happening in other courts, you meet a kind of a best academicians in the world, you sort of enrich your experience, you do a lot of networking. It's a wonderful place. And, you know, away from the daily rut on an official visit. The first meeting, as I think it's the time when I became a judge around about 2000, and that was on the role of NJA and also on the role of state judicial academies. Director of every state judicial academy, along with the chairman, were invited. There was a director in UP, but no chairman. Since I was interested in academics, the chief nominated me and I was there. Now, there was a very eminent person there. I will not name him. Don't please ask me his name. He was there and he started telling his views, what is the role of National Judicial Academy. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't know what he was speaking. I couldn't understand. I raised my hands. Sir, yes, sir, I have not been able to understand you. Please speak in a way I can understand you. The moment I said, many judges said the same thing. Sir, we have also not been able to understand single word. Speak in such a way that we can also understand. He finished thereafter. He gave a talk which none of us understood. None of us. After the session was over, obviously he was very upset with me, very, very upset with me. And while I was having a cup of tea, he came to me. And he says, when you invite a speaker, then audience should be ready to understand. I looked at him. Excuse me. It's a wrong approach. You have come here to explain what your views, your ideas, what a National Judicial Academy be. If we are not able to understand you, it's not our fault. It's your fault. It's not The audience is supposed to understand the speaker. It is for the speaker to understand the audience. Whenever you are invited, talk about the audience. Who is going to be in your audience? Try to be one of them. Try to go to their level. Sometimes it's difficult to go on a higher level. All right, doesn't matter at all. Even if you don't go to that level. But if the level is lower, always go down to their level. There is no point giving a speech which no one understands. Next point, Nachiketa.
Seventh point, tell stories, personal experiences, fill up with humor.
I will go slightly technical here. Bear with me, you will understand. And this is something which sometime or the other, this knowledge will be very beneficial for you. Software are basically of two kinds: proprietary software, non-proprietary software. Windows is an operating system. Apple computers, the computers that Jobs made, they work on a Mac operating system. Now, these operating systems are proprietary systems. In a proprietary system, it's a very debatable whether a software can be patented or not. There is a debate world over. If Mr. Nachiketa ever invites me again, I would love to do this talk. It's a very complicated subject, but nonetheless, it's a very interesting subject. Software in America is being patented, though it cannot be. Software can always be copyrighted, and it is protected as a copyright. But most of this proprietary software is protected as a trade secret. Do you know which is the best trade secret? Coca-Cola. No one knows what is there in the solution. Everybody knows how to bottle it, mix water and bottle it, but no one knows what's in the solution. So normally the proprietary software is protected as a trade secret. No one knows how they function. The non-proprietary software is the one, is also known as open source software. Now, it has some copyright, but basically it's not owned by anybody. Everybody knows how this software works. You can modify it, you can use it, you can do that. But there are some conditions. Let's not go into that. Linux is an operating system which is based on open source software. I'm a great supporter of open source software. When I became a judge, Allahabad High Court had 60 desktops, but had 45 licenses. Now, this is illegal. A High Court doing an illegal thing. The moment I was appointed, I was told this, and I told the chief, this is something wrong. We can't do it. As a High Court, you can't do it. And then we shifted to Linux. Very soon, Allahabad High Court had its own web server. Now, Allahabad High Court is the first High Court, and I think is the only High Court in the world to have its own server. The rest of the High Court and the Supreme Court have an IC server. Now, when we are buying that, we chose a Linux server, open source server. It took us more than 4 weeks to set it up. But I said, no, we'll do it open source. Initially, the E-committee did not understand the importance of open source. They wanted to send some computers to us on Windows. And I sent a word to them. We don't want any computers of yours. The E-committee said, if you don't want, your state, UP will be backward. I said, let UP be backward. I don't want to have computers on Windows. Today, can you imagine the entire judiciary is followed the Allahabad High Court lead? Everybody is in Linux. In 2007, Berlin was shifting from Windows to Linux. and they organized a global conference. Now, at that time, Allahabad High Court was the only government institution in the world that openly supported open source. And obviously, I was invited to speak there. That time, in the conference, every big shot from open source was there. There was a chairman of IBM, there was a chairman of Red Hat, you name a person and he was there. I was the only person who was a non-technical. I explained the legal implication of open source and proprietary source of software, like I explained to you. Then I explained the importance of open source by a very famous story, Panchtantra story. It's a part of Aesop fables also. The name of the story is The Tortoise and the Hare. I'm sure you know that there was a race between the two. Tortoise wins. From there, the moral, slow but steady, wins the race. I added 3 more races to it. In the second race, the hare wins. It has another moral. Third race, tortoise wins. Again, different moral. And the fourth and the most important race was they consolidate the strong points, finish together. And I said, moral of the fourth race is consolidate strong points. And this is what open source does. The next year's conference, 2008, was held in Pretoria, South Africa. Again, I was invited. I again went there. Like, all information in the digital world is kept in format. You see the file number, there is a dot, and there is sometimes 3 letters, sometimes 4 letters. It's written there. That's a format. For music, it's MP3. From this format, your computer understands what kind of file it is. For picture, it is JPG, PNG. For a text document, it's TXT, TOC. So these are the formats, and they are also of 2 kinds, proprietary and open. Now, in a proprietary ones, or again, majority, most of them are protected as trade secret. No one knows how they function. Open format are the one which are open for everyone to see. You know how they function. You can modify them as well. This time, in a 2008 conference, I explained the importance of open format by a very famous science fiction story written by Jayant Vishnu Nagarkar, The Return of Vaman. Okay, let's see how many have you read Return of Vaman? Return of Vaman. Raise your hands. Okay, doesn't matter at all. It's a very, but it's a very interesting story. I tell you the plot of the story. Oh wait, there's one person. Oh, I'm so happy. Please tell me the name. Announce his name.
Janvi. Janvi, you're there?
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great, Janvi. Let me tell the plot of the story for the benefit of other students. There is a very deep hole was being dug to find out existence of neutrino. Neutrino happens to be a subatomic particle. While digging a hole, they come across a plug. In the plug, there is some message written. Now, no one understands that because that script was lost, that language was lost. They keep on digging further. They come across a box, a kind of a time capsule. When they open it, it has lots of diagrams. Now, one can understand the diagrams very easily. And it tells you how to make a robot. This robot was about, 3 feet high. Not very tall, 3 feet high. And the good point is that it could do most of the job. If he didn't know, you teach him only once and it will do the job perfectly the next time. You remember that? Lord Vishnu's fifth reincarnation? He was a dwarf, Vaman, जिन्होंने राजा बलि से 3 इन्होंने कदम मांग लिए थे, फिर राजा बलि को भेज दिया था पाताल लोक पे. तो उसी वामन के नाम पे इसका कहानी का नाम है रिटर्न ऑफ वामन. Now, Vaman did not know one thing, how to replicate itself. Robot keeps on telling them, please teach me how to replicate myself. I will make more robots of this kind and they will serve the humankind. You don't have to do any work. Enjoy yourself. And we will do everything for you. It will be utopia for you. But somehow the scientists were not very happy about it. And the reason is they wanted to actually know what was written in the blood. The entire story is how they decrypt the message there and what happens thereafter. I'm not going to tell you. Please read it. It's a very, very, very interesting book. But the point that I wanted to make was that in the real world, information lies in the language, in the script. You lose that, information is gone. In the digital world, information lies in the format. If it is a proprietary, then chances are the information will go away. Because once a corporation goes bankrupt, then the format dies with that corporation. But if it's an open format, it will live forever. In the evening, there was a formal dinner. Obviously, it is a good time to talk, good time to network, good time to meet, good time to understand different kind of people. Now, some of the delegates came to me and they said, sir, the next year's, that's 2009 conference in Brazil, will you be coming there, sir? I was, I feel uncomfortable there. I'm the only man from the legal world. Everybody was a computer expert. I couldn't understand a single word of what they were saying. And they were very intelligent people. They could understand my reluctance. Then one of them said, sir, no one knows who spoke what in the Berlin conference. Everybody knows the story, the tortoise and the hare. The conference is known as the Tortoise and the Hare Conference. Believe me, in 2009, no one will know who spoke what, but everyone will know what you spoke. They remember the story, the return of Vaman. And 2008 Pretoria Conference will be known as the Return of Vaman Conference. Please join us next year. We will miss you. The point that I was trying to tell you, that stories, personal experience, if they are relevant to the topic, definitely do talk about them. They leave lasting impressions. Then comes the question of filling it up with humor. Now, that's a very, very difficult proposition. Very few can carry out humor. Don't do it if you cannot. If you can do it, do it. Definitely do it. But be sure that you can do a humor. Because everyone cannot do it. And remember one thing. Humor normally is on oneself. Like I told you my personal experience, how I got embarrassed. And humor is never, never, never on other person. Mr. Nachiketa, let's come to the last point.
Eighth point, beginning and the end. Both are important.
Beginning is important to grab the attention of the audience. Begin with, आप शेर और शायरी करते हैं ना, तो जरूर एक बढ़िया सा शेर सुनाइए, कुछ शायरी कीजिए, कुछ कोई अच्छी सी कविता सुनाइए, you know, or you give a very staggering statistics, astonishing statistics, or make a declaration, or ask a question. Involve your audience into it, and you will get attention. And you can, of course, tell a story, modify it like I did. The story that I told you is not my story. The story is about 2,000 years old. This century it has been repeated. And in the last century, George Bernard Shaw wrote a very famous play, Androcles and the Lion. Androcles was the name of the slave. Just raise again your hands. How many have you read this play? Let's see.
Yeah, anybody who has read it? Yeah. Yeah, there are a few.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
4 people. I can see. The point that I was trying to tell you about this, read good books, read novels. They widen your horizon and they improve your language. One should always read. And it's good to read a book and mark it with a pencil so that if you ever need be, you can easily find that. Equally, the end is important. And this is how your audience will always remember you. With this, I come to I finish my all 8 points, and I will request Mr. Nachiketa to talk about all 8 points.
All the points that we have discussed. First, read, prepare, and be clear. Second, write your speech, revise. Third, keep your language simple. Fourth, never memorize, never read. Fifth, rehearse your talk. Sixth, know your audience. Seventh, tell stories, personal experiences, fill up with humor. Eighth, and the last, beginning and the end, both are important.
No one is born great speaker. Churchill, the greatest orator of the last century, greatest speaker of the last century, he had slight stammer. And he used to lisp. Nani Palkewala, he is the greatest Indian lawyer ever. He was a great orator, and I can personally vouch for that, because once he came to Allahabad and I heard him argue a matter and I heard him do speeches. I have never heard such a speech again. He used to stammer. Now, both of them, Churchill and Palkewala, got over their disability by determination and practice. And they sort of integrated their disability into their natural flow of their speech. My suggestion to you is, when the lockdown is over, start a public speaking club in your college. Oh, why not? Let's start it on a cyberspace, a virtual club. Meet once in a week, once in a fortnight, once in a month, as it suits you. Start practicing. It's the practice that makes a man perfect. Palkewala died, I think, in the beginning of the century. Believe me, there is nobody in India who's even patched to him. I have heard every great lawyer in India. Nobody is patched to him. No comparison. You never know. You may be the advocate. You may be the Palkewala that the nation is waiting for. And you never know, you may be the Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Winston Churchill that the world is waiting for. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. Jai Hind.